Hey guys, let me know what you think by liking and commenting, and it really helps me and this channel out when you subscribe, so please click that button. Thanks a bunch. Hey everybody, I'm going to start off today's review with an actual movie. It's The Man in the Gray Flannel Suit. It's one I've actually watched before, and I think it's a really great film. This film came out in April of 1956, so quite a while, and believe it or not, I'm not even this old, but I remember seeing it one day. I have insomnia, and I'll be up, and I'll watch a lot of older films because they're often the only decent thing on. The story centers on a character portrayed by Gregory Peck. He is a World War II veteran, and everything in this film is dictated by his service. He comes back and he's suffering from PTSD, which really starts to wear on his home life and his work life. And it's just about his struggles, and I think it's a pretty good story. Certainly the headliner is Gregory Peck, but for us rail fans and model railroaders, to us, I think the star of this movie is the New Haven EP-5, which appears even before he does. Here it is. Wow, the jet-like roar of the locomotive opens the film wonderfully, and it's hard to forget it once you've heard it. The next view we get of the locomotive is when it's pulling into the station to let Gregory Peck off so that he can get picked up by his lovely wife, played by the resplendent Jennifer Jones.
Did you say something?
I suppose I'd walk away from that lovely train for Jennifer Jones as well, but there may be days that's a really tough choice. Thanks to Rapido, I won't have to make that choice. I can have my very own EP-5. Granted, it's a lot smaller, but it's certainly no less elegant. I'm glad they came out with this locomotive, and I'm happy to receive it. I just got it, so I can't wait to show it off to you. I really didn't know a ton about this locomotive, and since I don't model any particular year or decade, I just run what I like. I just pick the first one on the page. I don't even know if it's the first one. I'm just like, that looks good. I'll click on that one. It certainly has the paint scheme that I want. That's what I was most concerned about after all. As is the case with most locomotives, but particularly for this one, since it's going to have a unique set of sounds and also it runs automatic pantographs, I went ahead and ordered the DCC sound version. So there's a lot of features. I'll be sure to show them off to you. As per usual, the instructions from Rapido have a short history, and it even tells you how to hold your EP-5. Lovingly and gently, I'm assuming. But I already knew that before this thing even showed up on my doorstep. There's a parts diagram, like I'm ever going to really want to take this thing apart. Hopefully it won't blow up or catch on fire or anything so that I have to use it to take it apart. We got a parts bag, not very many. What are these things? Are they foot stirrups? Is that what those are? I don't know. I probably won't even bother with them since they're so small. I doubt I would even notice. All right, let's take this thing out of the sleeved package here. Had a sleeved articulated clamshell. There we go. And let's take our first look. The locomotive is pretty slab-sided, and except for these vents, it actually doesn't have a lot of detail across its length. I'm wondering if today they would use it for advertising since it just has tons of flat surface area. Yeah, there's just so much room for an advertiser to want to lock onto. Here are the pantographs. They are automatic, and I'll show you that feature a little bit later. In fact, I'll compare it to the ones that I already have. I think this is my third locomotive with automatic pantographs. One thing I'm not sure about this locomotive is how to figure out which side runs front forward. I'm going to have to mark it, or hopefully there's a cab. I guess the F will tell me. So it's good they left that on there so that I don't have to guess every single time. As Rapido has become known for, and I think as they take very fine pride in, they've just got a number of wonderful details. Look at the interior cab. It actually has separately colored seats from the rest of everything else around it. And I don't know if you noticed, but even the grab irons here curl around at the bottom, just like the prototype did. So wonderful that they take these things into account when they build these. We'll take a quick look at the underside here. This is one area Rapido is great in, but of course, there's not a lot of underside detail here. There's this switch, which I assume is the pantograph switch, unless I say otherwise. I'm pretty sure about that. I don't think the real one used a big switch on the bottom in order to switch between, I guess, the third rail and the pantograph. So this is one area of inaccuracy for Rapido. I'll give you nicer views of this after I put it on the track and get it warmed up here. I'll do another walk around for you so you can see everything more clearly. If you're ready, let's move forward with this. I can't wait to try it out. In fact, as I'm holding it here, I haven't tried this out at all. This literally is the first time I've pulled it out of the box. I'm really looking forward to dumping some power into this and seeing what I get. Let's take a look at the consist that I'm going to run with this. One that's actually going to be really, really similar to what you see here in this movie. This is one thing I really appreciate about Rapido versus, say, Broadway Limited, in that Rapido puts out unique locomotives just like Broadway Limited, but a lot of times it seems like they also like to come up with the consist that goes along with it. Let's say there's the detail pack. I don't know. What are these going to be? Foot stirrups, something like that. Grab irons of some sort. I'm not going to use them. Here's the 8600 series coach, just like you see in the movies. I opted for the skirted versions. I usually do, given the choice. Rapido is, they're really known for their, underbodies, but their interiors are great too. Here we see their blue seats with the aisles being tan, but in the rear, so I guess this is the smoking area, we have different colored seats. And also, I guess those are the ashtrays. They're also silver. I guess they'd be made out of stainless steel or something like that. They'd be made out of chrome layered steel or something, so that's what they would look like. We have the stop gate at the end, really nice. It looks like it'd be about the same size scale-wise as it would be in real life. Here's the underbody, which, of course, Rapido is really known for. They really put a lot of effort into these. The one part of the car I'm just never really all that worried about, but I know some people love them. I know a lot of people are into this kind of thing, and I really appreciate Rapido for all this effort they put into the undercarriage. Although you may not be able to see them, in fact, you really can't. These carriages have electrical pickups, and they are permanently lit. So they're permanently on, and they're good for any DC or DCC system. Although they specifically instruct you not to run them on a Markland AC system. I'm not sure why you would, although they did make some New Haven Markland AC analog units. In fact, I have one, so I suppose I would be tempted or maybe tempted to use it if that's all I had. But since I don't, I run DCC. They'll go on that track. So there's those. Oh, here's one of the boxes, though, that Rapido sent me, and I've written to Rapido several times about this. I feel I should at least get a decent box, but this is the box I got. So Rapido, if you're watching this, I would still like a box that looks like this. Now, what you're seeing is the box for the dining car, and I accidentally ordered the unskirted version. I didn't mean to, but that's the one I got, and I'm not going to send it back. That'll be fine. It'll be easier, I guess, to see which one the dining car is. So let's pull that out. It's the same paint scheme. It's the same basic layout and everything. I don't even know if these commuter sets usually did have a dining car, but I really don't care because if I ran a railroad, everybody would eat. But it has the wand to turn on the light. I hate the wand. Don't like it at all. It's a relic from the past and should be replaced with DCC or dip switches if you're running DC. I don't like the wand. All right, here's the dining car, and one of the really neat features about this dining car is that it has plate settings and table settings. I noticed the coupler's different color. The couplers on my other one are black, and these ones are brown. It's kind of bizarre. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. But again, the same type of attention to detail here that Rapido is known for. If you saw the ends, they have hoses. These dining cars are actually 6-axle. That's pretty interesting. Now, I know there's actually kitchen details, even though you can't see them. They put them in there, but if you look through, there's definitely no doubt about the place settings. Every single place has both plates, utensils, it's a salad plate and a dinner plate. And the utensils are even colored separately, so that's great. I love those. I always love details like that. This is actually going to become my favorite car out of this whole running set. Separately colored luxury seats. Again, the attention to detail on the undercarriage Absolutely. A piece actually fell off, and I think it's some sort of hose or conduit that goes from one car to the other. It actually fell off on one side, and I'm probably not even going to bother to put it back on, to be honest with you, because it'll probably just fall off again. One thing I noticed about these cars is they actually have a pretty fair amount of heft. I'll put everything up on the scale here for you in a second, and we'll see how much all of this will weigh going down the track. The wheels on these seem to be pretty smooth running, certainly smoother than my Bachmann's or Walthers, absolutely. So I think we won't have a problem pulling any of these. Let me take you on a pretty brief walk around here. I showed you most of this already during the unboxing, but let me get some close-ups here. Here you can see the front. We're working with the front here. This is the front windshield and the front pantograph. Very detailed, and of course I'll show you this later and I'll talk about it a lot more. These pantographs work, although I'm not sure if you can pull in power through them. I don't know if the instruction book really details that you can transmit it's usually the positive side through the pantographs or not. We'll walk you. By the way, those vents that you see, those are actually open. You can see through them. Look at how that windshield wiper actually curves down at the bottom. That's a great detail. Also, the number boards are normally on. You have to turn them off if you don't want them on. So they're on by default. If you had a lock programmer, you could change that around. Really not surprising here. Very sharp details. I mean, you can actually read the General Electric in the builder's plate there. Here are the trucks. I don't know much about these truck prototypes, but hopefully you do, and you know what you're looking at. Again, paint job is just what you expect from Rapido. Top-notch, absolutely top-notch builder. The light on mine is just a straight-up light. It's not a Mars light or a gyro light or anything like that. If we look here, we've got the speaker cone for the horn. Looks really good. Let me go ahead and dive into these a little bit more deeply for you so you can figure out if this model will meet your needs or not. I did mention this briefly, but for those of you who didn't hear it or don't know, the F stands for front in this particular case. It's right next to the builder's plate, so if you're not sure which way to orient this on the track, look for the big capital F. Let's get scale ready here, and let's figure out how much this weighs. This model doesn't have any traction tires, so it's going to have to rely on adhesion. I can prove it. Here's the front, here's the back, no traction tires. So no traction tires to take care of, but you will be somewhat limited in the amount of weight this can pull. And it looks like our weight here is going to be just over a pound, just over 17 ounces. So just over 1 pound, 1 ounce, and that's 489 grams. Let's go ahead and let's figure out how much this thing is going to have to pull, because I have 6 of these coaches and 1 of the dining car. So, let's take a look at, just like looking at this interior, they did a really wonderful job. Plop this down and we get 7 ounces, so that's pretty good. It's hefty, but not overly hefty. That's probably about where it should be, 200 grams. 7.1 ounces. Let's go ahead. Certainly the dining car feels heavier. There's no doubt about it. So let's put it down and see if I'm right. Yeah, I am, by a little bit, not by a ton. This car is going to have a little bit more rolling resistance thanks to its weight, but also the fact that it has 6 axles instead of 4. Let's just quickly see how much this consist is going to add up to. So if I take the cars by ounces and then simply add the dining car, we've got 50 ounces. So 50 ounces of cars that this is going to have to pull. That's going to equal, let's see, 3 1/8 pounds. So that's a pretty decent amount of weight for this somewhat lightweight locomotive to pull. For those of us who use the metric system, let me go ahead and do that in grams here. We'll do these 6 cars. They're 200, so that's a really nice even number. Add in the cafeteria car, and oops, we want to actually get my stuff together. We're going to get just under 1.4 kilograms, which, by the way, if you were wondering if this were fissile weapons grade material, would produce a nominal explosive yield of about 24.65 kilotons, 24.66 kilotons. So let's go ahead and check coupler height. Yep, looks pretty much dead on. Yeah, I think that's dead on for what it's worth. Maybe ever so slightly high, but I'm not too worried about that. I think that counts. That was the front. Let's flip this thing on around, and actually the rear one probably is going to be used a little bit more, and it's dead on ski, so I think we're really good there. And I gauged the wheels and they're all fine. One thing I noticed about these trucks is that they're really long. I mean, here it is. It's even longer than my E8 trucks. So what happens is it makes these trucks a little bit unforgiving if you have kind of sloppy track like mine is. The front wheel in general has a tendency to derail if under certain circumstances, so you may want to be a little bit careful. If you're wondering how this compares to basically a sibling locomotive, I have MTH's Little Joe, and you can see here that it's quite a bit smaller, definitely quite a bit smaller. Of course, it's a less powerful locomotive. It was designed primarily for passenger use, whereas the Little Joe was designed primarily for freight use. As you can see, the Joe is significantly longer and, of course, has more wheels. Within 2 laps of running this thing, actually the ladder on the conductor's side front fell off and actually jammed into the wheels and derailed it and shorted my entire track. So there may be some fragility issues, I'm not sure, but just be aware that this happened to me. Here's the EP-5 on low-speed crawl, and as I suspected, they use lock sound, and lock sounds are just simply better at the low end out of the box than Tsunamis are. It doesn't seem like a lot of companies, if they use Tsunami, bother to tune it for a crawl at the low end. So what you get is a locomotive that's a little bit faster. Well, this is notch 1 out of 128, and it's got a really good crawl going. So this is more what I look for and more what I like, and this is what I have to tweak Tsunami for if it's out of the box. But lock sound gives you this straight away, so looks really good, nice and slow. My Rapidos are some of the quietest locomotives I have, and this one's no exception. And remember, I use Bachmann Easy Track too, which is hollow, so it really just reflects a lot of sound. Okay, yep, let me run you through some of the sounds and functions. It's really, I mean, they had to create a lot of custom sounds. They obviously put a lot of work into it. Sorry guys, I can't figure out what this one is. I'm gonna have to look through the manual while it's sitting here. Sorry, I don't want to refilm this because I'm lazy and I'm just gonna look through the manual, so hang on. Okay, so I'm looking. It says F20 hyper prototypicality, but I can't find every single page I flip through. I can't find it. Talks about a lot of other stuff. Switching mode. I don't know. Looking hyper prototypicality. I don't know what this means. All right, so we have all the functions listed out specifically one by one, but I don't see hyper prototypic. Holy shit! Okay, let's try this again. So this is EP-5 number 2. And let's go ahead and pull this one out of the box and hope this one doesn't burn up. Not really sure what caused the Let me detail for you one of the more interesting but perhaps slightly flawed features of this model. When you first unbox this model, the pantographs are actually off, and you have to click the switch over in order to be able to use them. And that's according to the instructions to help you not have an accident if you're not used to running this. So after you flip the switch over, you can operate the pantographs by using F13 and F14. Here, the sound isn't on, and I'm able to raise and lower the pantographs at will. The problem begins when you turn the sound on, and the way the instructions read, the pantograph that's to the rear of the direction of travel is normally raised in the EP-5, and so that's what it'll do. When you switch directions on this model, the pantograph that was at the rear will close, and the one that will now be at the rear will open, and that's automatic. If you want to raise the pantograph that's on the leading side of from the direction of travel, you'll just press F13. I have this set to go forward, so you hit F13 and the front pantograph will raise as well. But that's the problem, is you can have both of them up, but you can't have both of them down when the sound is running. I can lower the front one, and the front meaning the one that's facing the direction of travel, but I can't lower the rear one. This is a problem for two separate reasons. The first is that it's not prototypical. If I read this correctly, the original had a pickup shoe for when it was coming into the central part of Manhattan. At that point, it should have switched to a pickup shoe to grab the third rail, and it should have retracted its pantograph, if I'm not mistaken. And another is just systematic. I mean, if you wanted to run this on some part of your track that had a low overhang, a bridge or something like that, or you're switching it out, you should be able to put both of them down, right? I mean, that's what would make sense to me. Both of my other two automatic pantograph models allow me to do this. Here's the instruction manual for my MTH Little Joe, and it will also automatically flip the pantographs from the one that was in the rear to what will now be the one that's in the rear, but it'll also allow you to switch manually. But there's another weird quirk here. If you listen to the pantograph when it's being raised, you'll hear an electrical arcing sound. When you hear it lowered, you'll hear like a thump as soon as it hits the bottom. Listen carefully. Did you hear it? But listen, it also happens when the pantograph is already up and then won't come down. So it seems like the back one should be closing, but it's not. I think they should have figured this out before it left the factory. I'm going to go into Lock Programmer and see if I can fix this, and if I can, I'll post another video about it. Of course, the pantograph mechanism is really fragile, so you really want to be careful to take care, not run into any bridges or anything like that. Just be sure that when you're using it. I guess we'll do this again. This is starting to get to be a long video, so I don't want it to go too long. So I'll give you a separate running session in a different video. Hopefully you'll enjoy that. That way you don't have to keep watching this and you can just flip between the two whenever you feel like it. Again, great model by Rapido, no doubt about it. Looks great, looks excellent with these cars, and maybe it just looks exactly like it does in the movie. It looks great. But like I said, the pantograph function, I think they probably could have thought that one out a little bit better. So I'm going to go in, and if and when I find a solution, I will post it for you. Hopefully I will. The custom sound file is spot on. A lot of times with custom spot files, there's a lot of looping, and I can really tell where, they've made the cuts. Here, it just doesn't happen. It sounds wonderful. Excellent sound design work on Rapido's part. So give me about a day or two and I'll have a running session up for you with a running buddy. I haven't quite figured out which one I'm going to use yet. But like usual, hey, I really appreciate you viewing. Let me know what you think. Do you have this model? If you do, what's been your experiences with it? Have you lost a letter? It helps me tons when you like this video, and it helps me even more if you take the time to subscribe. So I'd really appreciate it if you hit that button for me. Hey, until next time, I hope you have fun model railroading. Take care, and I'll catch you later.